In Africa, we can still find remote mountains and dense rainforests where no scientific research has been conducted so far. Such white spots on the map are extremely interesting to biologists because they can be full of undescribed species and surprising biodiversity. Some animal groups are amazingly diverse in those areas, and research on them can help to understand the geographic history of huge areas on the continents. Frogs colonized every terrestrial and freshwater habitat, and they were able to survive dramatic climatic changes across millions of years. In one country particularly rich in biodiversity, they evolved into many species, reaching from the size of a few grams to the biggest frog in the world with a weight of over 3 kilograms. The name of this country is Cameroon, and in 2016, the Czech herpetologist Václav Gvoždík and his PhD student Matej Dolinay travelled there to study frogs. Herpetology studies evolution, ecology, and the behaviour of reptiles and amphibians. The regions with the biggest diversity of herpetofauna are in the tropics, where are ideal ecological conditions for these vertebrates. Due to climatic changes, the rainforests in the Congo Basin were spreading and disappearing again during the Tertiary, and these processes have led to the establishment of genetic diversity in the populations of reptiles and amphibians. The main aim of the research, led by Václav Gvoždík and funded by the Czech Academy of Science, is to study the impact of these forest fluctuations on populations of herpetofauna. Mainly 2 genera of small frogs with different life strategies are used as a model object. The first one is the genus Phrenobatrachus, which comprises of lowland and also mountainous species. These frogs have a classical life cycle with a tadpole phase. The second model genus is Arthroleptus, which has a strange life strategy for an amphibian living in the tropical rainforest. All species of this group are switching from the stage of tadpole, and small frogs are hatching directly from the eggs laid in moisturized soil. Cameroon is one of the best countries for studies about frogs in Africa. More than 200 species have been confirmed here, and most of them haven't been examined by genetic methods. In the mountains, it is possible to find real specialists adapted to a life in harsh conditions, and these species are very interesting to Czech scientists. The team travels to a remote region of the Adamawa province, to mountain ranges on the border with Nigeria. Banyo is a small city and centre of this region. It will be our base station for the upcoming 3 weeks, during which we want to explore the forests of 2 mountain ranges. For approximately 1 week's stay in the mountains over 2,000 meters high, we need to buy enough food and other equipment for us and also for our local collaborators. Access to very remote areas is usually a bit problematic in the countries of Central Africa, and our journey soon turns into an adventure. We start with a car, but soon the road is getting very bad, and we have to hire motorbikes from small villages. Luckily, the villagers are keen to help, and even help us to cross the rivers with high levels of water. Our motorbikes, heavy equipment, and even members of the team are carried to the other side of the river by strong men. In the case of Gerard, a student from our local collaborating university, this is a life-threatening situation because similarly to most Cameroonians, he cannot swim. Carrying the cargo with weight over 100 kilograms of motorbikes in conditions suitable only for rally races takes a long time. But finally we are able to reach the remote villages high in the mountains. Here we have to meet the chief of the village and explain to him our plans.
I like to split the food and leave half of the food here in the white bag and put the food in black in your bag.
The reception is friendly, so we can hire porters and a cook and start our walk to the wilderness. The mountains around us are untouched from civilization, and it seems as if we are the first white men who arrived here. The border with Nigeria is not guarded by anybody, and soon we start to forget about it. We set our camp on a place with beautiful scenery around us, but it suddenly leaves its place to the harsh mountainous weather. This is not the Africa most people imagine. It is cold and rough. Despite of that, people live here almost during the whole year. Shepherds from the Fulani ethnic group have their herds of zebu here because this place offers a vast grassland for grazing. They live in very simple houses and resist the unfriendly weather conditions without any problems. The fauna in the mountains comprises either of generalists, which are able to tolerate the harsh conditions, or of pure specialists, perfectly adapted to the ecosystem after millions of years of evolution. These species are often found only in these particular habitats. The main aim of our scientific project is to study the evolutionary adaptations of frogs to their environment. We hope that we will be able to find yet undescribed reptiles and amphibians living in isolation. Mountain chameleons are very special groups confined to high mountains, and they are attractive to any herpetologist. Most of our time, we search for frogs in suitable habitats. An undescribed species of Phrenobatrachus should be present in moist forests around. But unfortunately, we come across a surprisingly small number of amphibians on mountain ranges, but the mysterious frog is not among them. In the camp, we work on preserving tissue samples for transport to the Czech Republic, and during that time our cook prepares food from our supply bought in Banyo. We are trying to find as much information about the evolution of herpetofauna here as possible. Apart from tissue samples for genetic analysis, we take also few individuals of every species for morphological studies. It is interesting to find here the clawed frog, which is a water frog, very rarely found at such high altitudes. Sadly, in general, we are not very successful in our search for more exciting discoveries. A rapid decrease of frog populations in mountainous regions of Cameroon could be connected with the presence of a dangerous disease called chytridiomycosis. It is caused by a parasitic fungus, Batrachochytrium dendrobatidis, which has effectively colonized almost the whole world, and especially in tropical regions, it decimates populations of amphibians. More than 200 species were brought to extinction by this pathogen, and many more are now endangered. Our colleagues from Germany, USA, and Great Britain proved in collaboration with Cameroonian scientists that chytridiomycosis is present in this region, and we also detect the fungus in our samples after returning back to Europe. The next threat for amphibians could be the destruction of habitats by a high number of cattle walking straight in the forest streams. The forest areas are smaller and herds of zebu are bigger. We can just hope that somewhere in the mountains of Cameroon it is still possible to find the tiny frogs we are looking for. The next destinations are in the Atlantic forests, which can be found on the western coast of Cameroon. Rivers with strong and quick currents flowing from the mountains are typical for this region. To reach the localities we plan to visit, we again have to be prepared for a long and difficult journey. This time we need a good off-road car equipped with a 4x4 system. Roads in the rainforests are often in very bad conditions, which is even more typical during wet season. But this time of year is perfect for our research, as the activity of herpetofauna is at its highest point. However, our plans could be complicated by too heavy rain. We encounter the next ethnic group of local people, the small pygmy people, and we set our camp near their villages. In this area, we finally find the high diversity of organisms, which is typical for rainforests in Cameroon. Because of that, we have to do more work now. Around the camp, under the huge forest trees, we can still find interesting chameleons or snakes. Some of them have deadly venom, such as the rhinoceros viper. Most Africans are very afraid of snakes, and they kill them without any mercy. We try to explain to them that not every species of snake is dangerous. In fact, just a few species in these forests can kill an adult human. Anyway, they still consider our activities as at least not wise. Almost whole nights we spend by walking in the jungle. Most amphibians are active after the darkness. The best time to go out from the camp is right before the dusk, and the high activity of frogs lasts for approximately 2 hours. Some of the most colourful and attractive species belong to the group Afrobactrichia, which has only African origin. They are often called reed frogs. Apart from tiny colourful frogs, there is a species in these forests which has no match all around in the world. A titan among frogs is hiding in the strong currents of the rivers and waterfalls in the Atlantic forests. It goes out of the water only during late night, and it is very wary. With water up to our waists, we climb up a river full of waterfalls in the company of a local hunter. To catch this frog is very difficult, and only specialists know how to do that. Despite the fact that it is the only protected frog in Cameroon, it is hunted and sold for meat in high numbers in some regions. This youngster is far from the size interesting for hunters, but from a scientific point of view it has big value. We have in our hands the Goliath frog, the biggest frog in the world, almost nothing is known about it. Somewhere in this part of Cameroon, there are monsters that weigh over 3 kilograms, and local people even speak about 4 kilograms. At the end of our expedition, we visit the Atlantic forests again with a smaller number of team members. We are on the quest to find the truly gigantic frogs. We start our search on local markets, where we hope to meet somebody who knows the good localities and hunters. It is good to ask the older women, because they cook the meat the hunters bring back from nature and need to communicate with them. The information we get brings us out of Nekong Samba city to remote villages at the foot of the mountains where the frogs live in wild rivers. From here, the hunters bring their catch to the main road and they try to sell it. The chief of the village is friendly, and he is keen to ask the best hunters for help.
They are building the houses. Yes.
For you have been a forest.
Forest.
Yes. Now that they build
So the village is getting bigger.
Yes.
More people.
More people, yes. So now the people come. All the route to Dombin, so they come up in the bush.
Yeah.
I think that's much more hard.
Our presence, of course, attracts big attention from villagers, especially from the children.
Bon, bien, on peut avoir le petit avion.
It takes 3 days until the moment when we can celebrate the success with Czech spirit and see the king among frogs.
Le secret de sorcier, c'est Ngwa. Ngwa, s'il arrive là maintenant, il faut qu'il m'avance.
We are lucky to see several individuals with different size and age, and the hunters are also showing us how they use special nets for catching Goliath frogs in not easily accessible habitats where they live.
Quand j'ai le genou Goliath.
C'est Grenou Goliath.
Quand j'ai le genou Goliath, il est là la recherche de ça.
Bon, voilà ce qu'on appelle le filet là. Ah, c'est pour attraper. Ouais. It's heavy. Heavy.
You've got more of them?
When you the one is down.
C'est comme ça que nous arrêtons dans la nuit.
Dans la nuit.
Allez, base de un mort. Est-ce que je le connais? Ouais. Picsou.
After that, we can start to take tissue samples from every frog with a patient audience all around us. The samples will be used for future studies focused on genetic information of these animals. Apart from taking samples, we collect all possible data about every individual.
Put some back like that snake.
The biggest one weighs a decent 2.5 kilograms. The tissue samples are stored in alcohol so they can endure the long journey back to the Czech Republic. Encounters with this amazing amphibian is an extraordinary experience for the herpetologist. Releasing of the frogs is a big issue for us. Just very rarely are these animals so lucky to get back to their natural habitat after being caught. Moreover, we can see the Goliath frogs in their almost inaccessible environment during daytime. Almost nothing is known about the life of these giants. Data about their diet is still missing. Nobody knows how and where they are reproducing, or how long they live, and how quickly they grow. All these beautiful frogs are disappearing in the current, and together with them also their secrets, which are still waiting to be studied by scientists in the future. The last big forest formation in Cameroon are Congo Basin rainforests, which cover the southeastern part of the country. Here we see many cases of selling bushmeat, and unfortunately quite often the animals are among those which are on the list of protected species. Tortoises are favourite because they can be kept as a living source of meat for a long period of time. This is also the case for pangolins, a strange mammal with scales on their body. We decide to buy one, and the seller has no problem with being photographed with the animal, despite the fact that we are documenting his illegal activities. The pangolins are active during the night, and during the day they rely on the strength of their scales. If they feel threatened, they make an impenetrable ball from their body. We are not able to convince the animal to go away by itself, so we leave it far away from people and hope that it will not meet another hunter. Soon we find another species of arboreal pangolin during our night walk with local villagers. They catch the mammal and treat it just as a source of food. We buy also this pangolin and save its life. The villagers don't understand why we are doing this, but the money convinces them to give up the animal.
Je comprends, muझे क्या वो तेरी बामी बायों का मुमुट अभी ना माना nganya bale mavem atia.
Apart from hunting pressure, a big problem for African pangolins is the Asian traditional medicine, which uses their scales. In Asia, pangolins are almost extinct, and the African species also haven't got a very bright future ahead of them. The pangolin we saved will hopefully recover from the shock and will return to the jungle, where it searches for ants, termites, and other insects. It eats this prey with its mouth without teeth. Apart from pangolins, we find many other animals in the rainforest, such as sleeping birds and antelopes. The Congolese forest might look the same as the Atlantic, but the plant community and even the season is different here. This fact, of course, has an impact on fauna. It is very interesting to work in these different forest formations during one expedition. Some frog species we have found only in Congolese forests, such as dwarf-clawed frogs. From reptiles, we have found forest geckos and small arboreal snakes. In the Ja Forest Reserve, we are accompanied by rangers who know the place very well and help us to find good areas for searching for herpetofauna. Apart from that, they show us how to survive just with things the rainforest offers. Our work in the camp is always the same, also in this part of Cameroon, but still we encounter something new here. We were found by the forest bees, which stay with us for almost a whole day, and there is no way to escape them. They are not aggressive, just interested in the salt, which we have everywhere on our sweaty clothes. Despite that, we get a few stings as a reminder of the Cameroonian wilderness. Almost after 2 months spent here, it is time to return to Europe. Approximately 50 kilometers away from Brno, there is Studenec. Here, in one of the 3 centers of the Institute of Vertebrate Biology, we work with the material brought from Africa. The tissue samples are stored in the freezer to prevent them from degradation. In the molecular laboratory, we start with the routine techniques used for isolation of DNA from a small piece of tissue. Combination of physical and chemical methods leads to breaking of the cell wall, disintegration of proteins, and dilution of salts and other not needed chemicals. After that, we have a unique DNA for every individual in one tube. If we want to work with it, we need to get a high number of copies from some parts of the DNA, which is interesting to us. To achieve this, we use polymerase chain reaction, so-called PCR. It uses the principle of nucleic acids replication, during which the genetic information is passed from one molecule to another. To choose a particular part of DNA to replicate, we need to use primers specifically designed for our experiment. The final reaction happens in the machine called the thermocycler, which changes the temperature during the process in the intervals we set up. At the end, we get a sample ready for sequencing, which is used to reveal the actual order of nuclear bases in sequence for every individual. For analyzing the data, we use methods designed for inference of evolutionary relationships and population structure. Thanks to the hidden information and genetic data, we uncover the history of known species, and we are able to reveal an existence of those which are still not described. Then we put these findings together with the knowledge of geography of our studied region. During creating a final evolutionary tree, or a map of the range of species with the distinct lineages, the process, which began thousands of kilometers away from here in Africa, is finished. Frogs are still surprising us. The study of their evolution and biology helps us to understand the history of whole ecosystems, or it is used to evaluate the level of habitat degradation. Moreover, thanks to modern genetic methods, we are discovering a lot of new species for science. It is a great feeling when we connect the field work with the work in the laboratory and put the mosaic of our knowledge together. A good example is the case of the golden puddle frog, Phrynobactricus auratus. After the hard work of Václav Gvoždík, we now have the data from the whole Congo basin, and our analysis suggests that it is not a single species, but a complex comprising a few related taxa. The evolution of these frogs can bring us some evidence about the dynamics of rainforests in Africa during the Tertiary and Quaternary epochs. Central Africa offers many interesting topics for scientists. Some mysteries are still hidden behind a dense curtain of fog, but some are slowly revealed.
Dobrý.
Bâton. C'est bon, bâton.
Se grenouille de l'eau. Connaissez-vous ce grenouille au village, au forêt? Il y a?
Ato nangi.
Ici à Fungo?
Tu as chopé ça ici,
Ah, c'est très intéressant.
Yo nangi alors là.